I'm here with Barry Smith. He's been working in a management role at Standard Bank for 45 years, and he retired in 2015. Now, since then, he's been helping retirees live their best life. In fact, he's even written a book about it. Today, he's going to share some of his secrets to living a fulfilling life in retirement. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Thank you very much, Devin.
So Barry, when would it be a good time for someone to retire?
Devin, it depends on the individual. There's no exact time. It's not when you reach the age of 63 years of age. It depends a lot on the person. I was very fortunate when I actually completed my work with Standard Bank. I did some work for a consulting firm which specialised on entrepreneurs, and I also helped them with their Black Economic Empowerment scorecard. And then I was actually asked to go back to Standard Bank, and I worked for them for about 2.5 years. So I was fortunate. I felt I wasn't quite ready to retire at that stage. But some people, they know when they want to retire. Some people like to do a part-time job, and some people like to continue working full-time. So there, to answer your question, there's no exact time, depends on the individual. But I think what will help a lot is obviously your financial position and also the plan you do beforehand. If you plan your retirement properly beforehand, you will know more or less when it's the right time to retire.
Okay. And then on your end, you've been in a senior position at Standard Bank. It's over 45 years. You obviously had lots of people engaging with you on a daily basis. You had to make key decisions. And there's a high level of importance in that role. So how did you find the adjustment, from having that level of importance to being in retirement where you don't have those people calling upon you? How did you adjust to that?
It was an adjustment. I was very fortunate, I think, because I kept myself pretty busy. But I had a very good friend who was in a very senior position. It took him a great while to adjust because he was used to having a personal secretary who arranged everything for him, having a staff of over 100 people reporting to him, and he had great difficulty. And I have heard of other people who I've met and spoken to. But I think it's really, it gets back again, having your purpose for life and also planning your retirement in advance.
Okay. And how does one find that purpose?
It's a very good question, Devin, because I think the best way I can describe it, I did obviously quite a lot of research in this whole purpose for life, and I was very fortunate. I came across a book by Barbara Hegarty, which is over there, where she talks quite a lot. And I will get to her purpose now, but I think a bit of background to why she wrote the book and why it's so important to have a purpose in life. What happened to Barbara? She was an announcer on a large radio station in America, and she used to cover topical points. And Americans are very critical. And on that one particular day, she'd spoken about something, and quite a few of the readers had criticized her quite heavily about what she had said. And suddenly she had this funny pain in her chest. And she went and she Googled it and said, no, it looks like I could be having a heart attack. So she phoned to her doctor, and he said, no, I think you're short of breath. I think you must come in for some tests. And she was taken to the hospital, and she just got there, and her husband phoned and said to her, I think you must phone your brother straight away. And she said, why? I said, no, just phone him. And she realized, or she thought, her dad had passed away. So she phoned her dad, and he had passed away. And she suddenly thought, I'm in a midlife crisis. So she took 6 months off work, and she toured a lot of parts of America, and she spoke to scientists, professors, and other senior people, and she did her own research. And she found out there's not such a thing as a midlife crisis, but how do you overcome the possibility of a midlife crisis? and her main recommendation was having a purpose for life. And that is why I've told this little story, because I think no matter what you do in retirement, you must have a purpose for getting up in the morning, getting up every day. And it may be things you've got more time to enjoy yourself, but you must have a purpose. And this, if you link that to your planning, it helps a lot.
So for a lot of retirement wellness clients out there, and for wealthy retirees, you're probably in a position where finance is not an issue. Now Barry, in a case like that, how does someone find purpose?
Devin, it's a very good question you asked, because it's not only finance, it's to find, there are various ways to find purpose for life. One of them is if you get yourself involved in the local community or your local church, that does help. And also, a lot of people do is to try something new. If you don't like what you're doing, you can change it again. So I think it's link it to what you want to do and what you may have dreams you'd like to do. Now you've got the time, you've got more time in your hands, and you can consider trying some new challenges.
Now, for many of you, you know that we've been stuck inside a pandemic for the last year and a half. And if you've retired during this time, some of the dreams that you've had could not be fulfilled. So you might not have done the traveling that you wanted to, or the home renovations, or a new set of wheels. In cases like that, Barry, how can someone lead a purposeful retirement?
Devin, I was very fortunate. I was invited to do link up with a worldwide survey on retirement people facing COVID-19. And the survey was very interesting. Obviously, everybody's had to change their lifestyles because there's no more travel. And if I talk about myself personally, we were due to go with our family to Cape Town. We had booked a timeshare, we had our air tickets booked and everything, and suddenly we couldn't travel. So I was quite lost, and suddenly you can't go anywhere. So what Bev, my wife, and I decided to do, we decided to do a spring clean of our whole house. It took our mind off it. It took us a few weeks, and we sort of tried to do sometimes 1 or 2 days a room, depends on the size of the room, and we spent time doing that. But I think a lot of people in this survey said, in fact, what I also did my own internal survey looking at South African people in retirement, and I think a lot of people have had time to do it themselves, to look at themselves again and see what else they can do. I know some people who've taken up hobbies which they haven't done for years, and some people I know, I've also got more involved with my garden. So I think you've got to find somewhere else. We used to love traveling. We've done quite a few cruises, but suddenly we accept that we most likely won't ever cruise again. But I think what I've tried to do personally again is to be very grateful for what I've got. But I think really is just look around and look at yourself and decide what you can do. I know some people, especially in America, the people who were planning to retire and where do they move to, they were considering going to where there are various health centres and medical centres so they can be closer to them. So people's lifestyles have changed in a way, but I think really it's again getting back, having a purpose for what you do.
And in that response, you mentioned Beverly, your lovely wife. So there are many of you out there who have just retired, and you're probably thinking, it's an adjustment for you to be at home. It's also an adjustment for your partner if your partner's been at home for all that while, or now if your partner's still going to work whilst you're still at home. In cases like that, Barry, what advice do you have for couples?
Definitely. Look, I've got some advice for you because, in fact, I devoted a chapter on this topic, and quite a few of our readers have complimented me for covering this point, because I think it's such an important point, because I know things have changed slightly now. In the past, where you used to find a lot of the wives they stayed at home, didn't have to work, and the husbands went to work. I know it has changed slightly now, where I think most couples, both partners have to work, and it has changed slightly. But when I retired, there was at home, and it was quite a adjustment for me. And I've heard some people say to me about their husbands that either they don't help at all, or else they get in the way. And I've got a lovely story about the one couple. What happened was where the husband actually retired, and the wife continued to work. So the husband was at home, and he started doing the normal maintenance things around the house. He repainted the house, and suddenly he started getting bored. So what he decided to do, he would rearrange the kitchen cupboards to the disgust of his wife. But there is a happy ending to the story, is where the husband actually went back to work and got himself a part-time job. There's actually a website, and there's a book written by Nora Hill, who said how to overcome your husband's retirement. It's quite an amusing book, but it's some very good points. And as I say, she has a website called that. A couple of years ago, I was asked to address a Probus Club, which is a retirement organisation. And during question time, one of the wives said to me, "Please, Barry, can you help me? How can I get my husband to stop working?" And it's quite a difficult question to answer. I said, "Well, I'll answer your question, but can I ask him a question first?" She said, "No, sure." So I asked the husband, "Do you enjoy what you do?" He says, "I love it." And I asked him a bit more about what he did. He worked from home and mainly through his computer, and he was happy. But the point I'm getting to is the two of them need to discuss these things. And so when it's time for retirement, it's important to how is your relationship going to change? If she actually asked him that he was so happy and he wants to continue working. So it's such an important to have a good relationship when you retire.
Now we've brought up the book, and we can't hide this anymore. Barry is the co-author of a book that has sold close to 1,000 copies throughout our country, and it's been an amazing success. What else can viewers or readers look forward to in your book?
I think, as I said, that there are different choices, and I think what Andrew, my co-author, has done, he's allowed space where you can actually plan step by step. And also, I think which I believe is quite unique, where as Devin said earlier on, that I've come from a corporate background, but Andrew's been a real entrepreneur. He's been a farmer, he's been an officer in the Rhodesian Army, he's grown roses, he's been a dairy farmer, he's been a real entrepreneur, and he's still an entrepreneur. So he's devoted quite a lot of his section of the book to entrepreneurs. In fact, he even covers where if you own your own business and you're thinking of selling it, he gives you some advice of the things you should consider.
So, Barry, how does one stay healthy and active in retirement?
Devin, the two most important components, obviously, is exercise and how well you eat. And exercise can take many forms. I think since COVID-19, I think more and more people are doing more walks around their neighbourhood. That is one way to do. And also by meeting new people. I think it's a lot to do with your mind also. I know of a lot of people in retirement who play different board or card games. One thing what Bev and myself have started doing, which we enjoy and sometimes very frustrating, is doing puzzles. Jigsaw puzzles, and we've actually found quite a few people. I'd love to know how many people are doing it, but that is I think it's again keeping yourself active, because you cannot travel as much as you did before. So it's really that. And I think also we talk about flu vaccinations. We can also talk about the COVID vaccinations. I think I'm so glad more and more people are being vaccinated, but I think it's all linked to it. But I think also the social aspect is also very important.
So if you do get a chance to read Barry's book, you'll find out something important that he refers to, and that's living your best life. And Barry, on your end, how does one live their best life?
What I'd like to do, I'd like to quote from a book by Michael Gates-Gill. He was famous for, his first book was a bestseller, How Starbucks Saved His Life, where he ended up working for Starbucks. But when I bought his book, How to Save Your Own Life, when I was reading through Michael's book, I suddenly discovered what he emphasizes, that you look at different periods of your life and you decide which are the best years of your life. And I suddenly realized my years in retirement are the best years of my life. You may ask me why. Well, there's several reasons. One of them is the stress has definitely been relieved. Coming from the corporate background, we always had tight deadlines. We were all given new tasks. We always had to produce more to make more profit for the company. And also, I had a diverse number and different types of people reporting to me. All that stress is gone. But I think it's also linked to your family life. Before COVID came, we were able to travel quite a bit. I know travel has been reduced, but we are doing things that we like to do. And also what makes the best years of my life, I can spend more time with my grandchildren, which I can talk a lot about, but we really enjoy their company. So I think retirement can be the best years of your life.
And that's something that we aspire to at Retirement Wellness SA, because the purpose of your retirement should be to live the best life possible without having fear that you're going to run out of money. Barry, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to offer?
Yes, I just like to, on a slightly different basis, I'd just like to talk about, and I think it's so important, there are discounts and specials for pensioners in all the areas I've been in. I know various supermarkets have a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I know Builders Warehouse has a Wednesday where, as a pensioner, you either get a card, you definitely get a discount for. So I think it's important to see what's available. And I'll just relate a story. A few years ago, we were in a shopping centre. My wife was buying a pair of shoes, and there were no signs about any specials for discounts for pensioners. And I happened to say to the lady, do you offer any discount for pensioners? Yes, we do. So I said, and I think it was 10%. Oh, we just want your ID card. But I think sometimes it's worth just to ask, and there are discounts. My favourite one is bargain books. Tell you why, I enjoy reading. And if you go to bargain books, as a pensioner, you get a discount 7 days a week. It's not on a special day. And what I like, if they've got a special for, say, for 90 Rand, they often have books for 90 Rand, as a pensioner, you will still get your 10% and you'll pay less 10%. So that's actually a very nice one. And they normally have a lot of books available. So regarding the discount side, I would just ask people, even your subscription to newspapers, there's all sorts of concerns that you offer pension discounts.
So you've heard this straight from Barry Smith, all the tips, techniques that you need in order to live your best life in retirement. And Barry, where can someone purchase a copy of your book?
We do have a website called The Next Step. Otherwise, they can contact me through Devon, but it is available. I can always get the book to you. But and anybody is welcome to phone me if there's anything they'd like to know more about retirement. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone.
Barry, are there any risks or concerns or ways in which retirees are being exploited?
Yes, unfortunately, Devon, there are. This is one aspect in our book which is the only real negative aspect which we cover, because I think it's important to understand that in my research, preparing for our book, we established, and I know there was even a episode on carte blanche where they did quite a lot of research, and there's definitely the fraudsters are exploiting the retired people. It personally happened to me where I was caught. Fortunately, I didn't recover my money, but I think from the credit card side, there is a lot of people being exploited, and I would strongly recommend be very careful if you're offered any pyramid type of schemes to invest. And my suggestion to you is talk to your family, talk to your spouse, or even talk to your financial consultant before you go into any deals like that. They are offering all sorts. Recently there's been a flood where they say you've won a cell phone or you've won an iPad, and all they're looking for is your personal details, so be very conscious. And also what happened to me a couple of months ago was where it happened to quite a few people where a person will phone you and they are from a credit card fraud department, and they will say X amount has been taken off your account, we're going to send you a PIN number, and then they will assist you. In fact, I was caught, but I did recover my funds. It took about a month to think, but really just be very careful. Because the second time it happened to me, these people know so much information about you. I don't want to scare you in any way, but just be very careful if you don't know the people you're talking to, and don't be frightened to ask somebody else for their assistance.
Now, Barry, a lot of these emails or these text messages, they tend to be so believable.
Very, very believable.
So, what can a retiree do as a way to, prevent this?
In fact, what I did, I got, as you said, they look so genuine. The one looked so genuine to me. I actually sent it on to my bank for verification, and they came back and said to me, no, this is fraud. They are so good. So I would either talk to your own banker or talk to somebody else, but just don't respond straight away. They're always offering you something. So, well, how do they know so much about me? So just be very, very careful.
So, as is common when one gets to retirement, is the concept of downsizing. And when you're thinking about downsizing, there's the right way and the wrong way of doing this. Barry, what would you recommend as the approach to downsizing?
There's various things you can consider. Obviously, it's a lot is the financial side, but I think first of all to start off is to establish the reason why you want to downsize. Maybe your children have left home now, maybe financially it will save you also if you don't want to continue, if you have a garden, to maintain your garden. So have a reason for wanting to downsize. And also, if you do downsize, look and see where you're going to. Are you going to be a long way from your friends and your family? That's something to consider. Will there be people coming to stay with you? You may have children overseas who come and spend a month with you or a few weeks with you. Have you got sufficient space in your new accommodation to cater for them? I had a very interesting case. A friend of mine, I was actually in his home when he was busy moving to a smaller home, and what he did, in his new place he had bought, he went and did a map of each room. Then after that he measured his existing furniture to see if it would fit into his new home, and he actually planned each room before he moved. So when the time came to move, he knew which furniture he had to dispose with and where he's going to put the furniture. But I think downsizing is a very important aspect, not to be taken lightly at all.
Barry, and something sensitive that retirees have to face is loss. So you've been with your life partner for 30, 40, 50 years. How does one deal with the loss?
It's a very good question. We had a very good friend of ours, and we were friends with both the couple, and it's even 2 years since our good friend passed on. It's a very difficult thing. What I can suggest is your close family and friends are very important to you. What we do with our friends, we try and have breakfast with her every Saturday morning, because I think the weekend's quite a lonely time. And also another important aspect is when the person has passed on, when it comes up to their birthday or their wedding anniversary, that becomes a special time. And I think you do need your family especially to be close to you.
And Barry, from a mindset perspective, a lot of people see retirement as sort of the beginning of an end. So what advice do you have for those who need a fresh perspective on retirement?
I think it's also very important that you have, if you've got a group of friends or family, and I think family is so important. We don't see our family every weekend, but we do see them as much as we can. And also is to have friends. And I did mention earlier on, one way, if you can join your local community, then may be something you can do to help your local community in something. And really, to me, being involved in your own church, even on a small scale, we have definitely met some great people since who belong to the same church as we do.
Well, Barry, I want to thank you for making the time to come here today. I'm sure you found this incredibly helpful. Are there any final words you'd like to offer?
Just to say thank you very much for the opportunity, and please, if anybody are more than welcome to contact me on any aspects regarding their future or existing retirement from the non-financial side. Thank you.
So remember to click subscribe, and if you found this video helpful, please click thumbs up. Stay tuned for more episodes on this series.